In downtown New Brunswick, a man stops and chats with wheelchair-bound John Fleming and offers him money.
Isn't he poor? Yes. Isn't he the least of us? Aren't we supposed to help the needy?
John Fleming may be homeless, but he's not hopeless or helpless in his battle against the begging ban in New Brunswick.
See, I don't ask people for money, I just hold a sign.
A sign that reads, "Broke, please help, thank you, God bless you." Fleming says about 3 months ago, New Brunswick police began citing him, saying he was violating the city's panhandling ban. City Attorney William Hamilton.
He wasn't selected for any reason.
You know, I believe I have a right to hold a sign, just like anybody has a right to advertise. You know, like a store handing out flyers for their store. Same thing.
Fed up, one day Fleming researched online and solicited help from the American Civil Liberties Union of New Jersey.
The right to ask your neighbors for assistance or food is a First Amendment right, and what it essentially does is criminalize being homeless or poor.
We're not criminalizing poverty. We're trying to have an orderly city.
New Brunswick police have cited Fleming 4 times for violating the city's ban against panhandling. The last time came just hours after the ACLU and the New Jersey Coalition to End Homelessness sued the city last Thursday.
It seems like all over the country that we are trying to pass laws or enforce laws to push the homeless out of sight. You might have heard that about a Florida man who was arrested for feeding the homeless. And I think sometimes it makes us uncomfortable when we see people who are on the street. But I think the right response to that is to try to help people, not to punish them for speaking.
This ordinance is probably 80 years old. It's been on the books so that people would not be bothered on the street by panhandlers. We're like most other cities. I suspect if you went to most of the towns in Middlesex County, you'd find the same ordinance or one very much like it on the books.
If this anti-panhandling law has been on the books in New Brunswick for decades, as the attorney says, then why now? Why is New Brunswick all of a sudden enforcing it?
It's been enforced from time to time, yes. We are going to take a look at the ordinance. It's never been questioned before. I'm sure it's going to be modified, and I hope that people will be satisfied with it when we get finished modifying it.
To that, the Superior Court judge hearing the case says, "Isn't that refreshing?" In this first round, score a win for Fleming. The judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking New Brunswick from enforcing the begging ban and another law that requires a permit for anyone or any organization asking for donations. He scheduled another hearing for February. In New Brunswick, Michael Hill, NJTV News. A wheelchair-confined homeless man with a sign and the Constitution on his side got New Brunswick to settle to agree to repeal its begging ban and a requirement that beggars must have a permit.
We think all of laws like this violate human dignity and are not the solution to homelessness.
John Fleming took on New Brunswick because police cited him 4 times.
I believe I have a right to hold a sign, just like anybody has a right to advertise. You know, like a store handing out flyers for their store.
New Brunswick City Attorney said it was an old ordinance, but enforced last year for order.
We're not criminalizing poverty. We're trying to have an orderly city.
I actually ask for money, but I do it for a nonprofit organization, so it's considered not to be begging. But if a poor person does it on the street, it's considered to be begging, and if you're put in jail, I think it's criminal.
A pro bono lawyer from McCarter and English and the ACLU sued for Fleming.
You can't have an absolute ban on begging. It's just, it's our fundamental free speech rights to engage with other members of the public.
To settle the case, the City of New Brunswick has agreed to donate $4,500 to a homeless charity and to pay court costs and Fleming's attorneys. In a statement, it's also agreed to update 2 city ordinances dealing with panhandling because there are legitimate concerns regarding the constitutionality of the ordinances. The city's law department plans to introduce 2 new ordinances that will address panhandling and the regulation of solicitation of donations. The ACLU says many New Jersey towns have bans against begging, but they just don't enforce it. We found one in South Jersey that does. Middle Township adopted its ordinance in 2013, banning aggressive begging and panhandling. The police chief says as a result, his officers have written 8 citations for violation of that ordinance. The chief says homeless and heroin-addicted beggars annoyed residents, and that led to the law. He says it's okay to beg on the sidewalk, but following someone or repeatedly begging the same person crosses the line. The attorney for Middle Township told NJTV News the ordinance was written in all good faith. I believe it will pass constitutional scrutiny. If someone wants to challenge it, they can. The ACLU and the coalition are looking at begging bans in many New Jersey towns. Those laws usually become an issue when police enforce them, and enforcement usually invites a lawsuit.
We usually only hear about them when they are enforced, and so that's why we're undertaking this effort to make sure they're off the books so that police officers don't have the ability to violate someone's rights.
The ACLU and the coalition are looking for their next challenge. Michael Hill, NJTV News.